Sit back down and shut your trap. It's time for
Keeping It Sports with M3.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Well, I'll need some beer.
Are you ready?
You have to ask me nicely.
Come on now, don't be bashful.
Are you ready? Are you ready for
Place for the best sports talk and news surrounding each league.
I can prove it with my usual flawless logic.
Hey man, this time we'll do it my way.
What's your name again?
And now, here's your host, M3, Mike Rosansky. Coming to you from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It's time for Keeping It Sports with M3, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everything's going well for you here on this Monday, the 28th and final day of the month of February. Hope you're all enjoying your Monday afternoons, whatever you may be doing, whether it's you're working, you're just chilling out. Hell, even if you got the day off and you just feel like listening to me, I thank you all for that. And hopefully I can provide you a distraction as I do try to do each and every single week through this crazy time going on in not just our country, but our world. But we'll save that talk for someone else to talk about. Because, you know, on the surface, I should be in a pretty decent mood today. I should be rather happy, rather pleasant, considering Saturday night, I sit there after I come home from work and I watch my team, the Brooklyn Nets, go into Milwaukee and pull off a rather unlikely victory against a Bucks squad that you thought was poised to blow the Nets out of the building. Especially when you consider, Kyrie Irving was playing, but they had just come off of getting waxed at home by the Celtics on Thursday night. They had lost 6 consecutive games in which Kyrie Irving got to play in. A Bucks squad that is relatively healthy outside of Brook Lopez. And for some reason, Bobby Portis, every single time the Nets play him, seems to turn into an all-star. Hell, every time I see the Bucks in a national TV game, I feel like Bobby Portis puts up 20-plus points. Tonight, or Saturday, he just decided to post up 30, and the Nets would leave him wide open from behind the three-point arc all night long. I mean, you would think after 2 or 3 makes, maybe you put at least one guy out there on him. Especially when you know already that you're not going to be able to stop Giannis inside. So you might as well try to calm down something with the Bucks. But hey, the Nets showed a lot of fight. I mean, Kyrie put up an awesome performance, but you got plays from guys, whether, Drummond, having him as a presence inside has been very helpful, had some key blocks late in this game. You had, guys stepping up off the bench. Cam Thomas had made some big shots late in this game. Steph Curry was pretty good from behind the arc. That guys like Bruce Brown and their defense doesn't show up on the stat sheet, but they played pivotal roles. All the way around, this was a very quality win for this Nets team who, you thought on 2 or 3 occasions, as I said, were going to get blown out. They were down by double figures at certain points in the first half. They had a 13-point lead at one point in the third quarter, let that one get away. And when they were down by 8 or 9 midway through the fourth, you thought, this is going to be another heartbreaking loss for a Nets squad that is still depleted. I mean, they are getting Durant back this week, but they're still missing some key parts on this team. But they were able to hold on late, including where you were holding your breath with Giannis and that last-second three-point attempt. But otherwise, you would think that I'm in a pleasant mood. With that win, Kevin coming back at some point this week, not likely either tonight or tomorrow night, but likely before the date that I hope for with him, which was March 18th when I'm going to be in the building. But now, a couple of things when it comes to the Nets situation have me aggravated right now. Because yesterday, I think all Net fans were ready to do cartwheels. We're ready to have a smile on their face when New York City Mayor Eric Adams announced that starting next Monday, all vaccination requirements for Key 2 NYC, meaning indoor dining, fitness, and entertainment venues, will be lifted. Don't have to be vaccinated to enter them. The problem is there's whenever you read something, whether it's a contract or a press release, whatever it may be, terms to anything, there's always the fine print that you have to read. There's always that little underlayering that you have to read. And even with this announcement, Kyrie Irving will still not be permitted to play home games at the Barclay Center because there's the rule, the private sector mandate, which restricts Kyrie still from playing in home games, although he could enter the Barclay Center as a spectator. Now, how the hell does that make sense? Listen, all along, I'm vaccinated, I'm boosted. I've been someone that's out there promoting, hoping that a lot of people do the same. But at the same time, I'm not going to look down on anyone making their own personal choices that hopefully they're doing for the right reasons and not political means. But at the same time, it's never made sense to me how Kyrie Irving can't play in the Barclay Center or Madison Square Garden, but visiting players from outside the confines of New York City that are unvaccinated can play. That part of the rule has never made sense to me. And now, still, even with this, he could enter the Barclays Center. He could be a fan in the stands or whatnot, but he still couldn't suit up and play. And hell, he's allowed to practice with the team at their practice facility. I mean, hopefully this, in the next week to 10 days gets changed, because as we're seeing, as things continue to evolve, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, hopefully, knock on wood, that I'm not saying anything that's going to totally screw things up here. But it really feels like for the first time that this pandemic is starting to edge toward what we've wanted it to be the whole time, and that's an endemic, and rather than a public health crisis, something that we can manage going forward, something along the lines of the flu. But, hopefully as those numbers continue to go down, and Eric Adams has seemed like a pretty smart guy, seemed on top of things all along, unlike his predecessor. Maybe he'll realize how stupid that part of the rule is, and within the next week to 10 days, at a time when you're seeing mask mandates for indoor facilities by the CDC start to get lifted, as you start to see kids in New York City go back to school without the requirement of vaccination or masks, maybe this will get lifted as well. I'm feeling with this announcement confident. The fact that Kyrie will probably, as long as the Nets avoid the play-in scenario, be playing in home playoff games at the Barclay Center. Though the thing that gets me also annoyed with the Nets is all along I figured, okay, in sometime in the first 10 days of March, you're going to get Kyrie, Kevin, and Ben Simmons playing together at Barclay Center. But that doesn't seem like it's going to happen now because, in Ben Simmons' ramp-up process, he has started to experience some back soreness during the reconditioning process. It's unclear whether he's going to make his debut for the Nets anytime soon. I was hopeful for it to be a week from Thursday night when TNT has arguably the most talked about game of this season, as the Nets will go into Philadelphia to play the Sixers, but it doesn't seem like that's possible. I mean, Ben, what the hell were you doing with all of your, let's just call it time off, should we say? I mean, were you spending too much time hanging out with the Jenner sisters and the rest of the Kardashian family to stay in true top basketball condition that now you're experiencing back soreness? Give me a break. I mean, I think part of this annoyingness with the news about Ben Simmons probably comes after watching Harden the last couple of days, have two stellar performances for the Sixers. And what do you know? As soon as we get back from the All-Star break, that hamstring is feeling a lot better. Yeah. Harden, it's like he never missed any time. Putting up the back-to-back 25 and 10 plus games for the Sixers, including yesterday's triple-double at Madison Square Garden. And then the gall of this guy, I heard about this morning, how on Friday after his debut against the Timberwolves, he was asked about the criticism of his reputation, and he would go on to say, quote, "I don't know why. That's for the media. The media says that. I feel like I'm one of the best teammates the NBA's seen on and off the court. Just because the current situation happened, whatever happened, it doesn't mean I'm a bad teammate. Me personally, I feel like I needed to do what was best for my career and help myself and be happy. It doesn't harp on whether or not I'm a bad teammate." Yeah, it does, because let's look at what's happened in the last year and a half with you. You purposely let yourself get out of shape in Houston once they traded away Russell Westbrook. So you forced your way out of there. And at times, as we're now hearing, you wouldn't travel with the team, which to me is a big part of building camaraderie, building relationships with the team. You would travel on your own plane so that you could go to clubs and different party destinations on the same day as games. Then you force your way out, you get to Brooklyn, and because you didn't like Kyrie Irving's choices in life and were unhappy with living in New York City, as soon as things started to go bad, you start pulling the hamstring issue, start jagging it in certain games. And suddenly when you got to Philadelphia, you were 100% seemed like nothing was ever wrong with you. And I hope, when it comes to the Sixers, I hope you're aware of what you've signed up for. And you better hope that you win a championship this year. Because if you don't win a title this year and then say you get off to a slow start next year, you're going to see the real James Harden start to show up. Someone who's a bit lazy, someone who's selfish, someone who is more about himself than the team aspect. I mean, especially when you're run by Daryl Morey, who, when he was in charge of basketball operations in Houston, seemingly let James Harden do whatever the hell he wanted, run amok of the place. So, even though he's in charge there, you hope that having a strong figurehead as head coach in Doc Rivers, you're going to be able to keep him in charge. But if things start to go awry, the real James Harden is going to stand up. All right, a lot I want to get to for the next, about 40, 45 minutes or so here. Glad you guys could take the time to join me this week. So, as I always say, please put your feet up, relax, and continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting founder Dick Robinson.
You know, the media business has changed a lot since we opened our doors in 1964. Now media content is everywhere, on air, online, on the go. More than ever, companies are looking for people to help drive this new media.
At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, you'll get hands-on training on the latest software and equipment in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has placed thousands of grads in broadcast media careers.
It's all about versatility. You see, at a radio station, if you also know how to shoot, edit, and post videos, you become a pretty hot commodity. That's the training you get at Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with locations up and down the East Coast, from Massachusetts to Miami. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Connecticut School of Broadcasting, the nation's oldest and largest group of broadcast media schools, redefining training in radio, TV, and new media. Get trained. Get connected. 1-800-TV-RADIO.
Welcome back to Keeping It Sports with M3 on this lovely Monday afternoon here. One thing has kind of gone quietly in this NBA season. I think a lot of people in the last month or two have been just ready to hand the MVP award over to Joel Embiid. And there was that stretch where he was going out there seemingly putting up double-doubles every night of 30 and 12 to 15 almost every night, putting up Shaquille O'Neal in his prime like numbers. And there's other guys that you could throw in the mix as well. Steph Curry, and the sensational run he's been on this year, showing that the down years he's had the last couple a bit of a fluke. And I say down just based on his standards and based on the fact that he was the 100% sole focus on that offense without Klay Thompson. People will put the likes of Devin Booker and CP3 into the mix as well. Jimmy Butler for having Miami on top of the East. And I'm sure a few other names to throw in there, but one that is starting to get recognition. And it feels like up until now, this guy has never been truly treated as a star in this league, but now is starting to get some of that respect. And that would be the Chicago Bulls' DeMar DeRozan, who, when you think about DeMar DeRozan, is that career of just near misses. All those great years in Toronto that they can never seemingly get by the Cavs. Every with LeBron James, every year whether it was LeBron and the Cavs or LeBron and the Heat, they would run into them in the postseason and break the Toronto Raptors' hearts. And then, weirdly, two things converged at the same time. LeBron left the East, left the Cavaliers, and went and joined the Lakers in the Western Conference for the first time in his career. And that same offseason, the Toronto Raptors would not just fire head coach Dwayne Casey, but would trade DeMar DeRozan in a package to get Kawhi Leonard. And we would see what happened there. Kawhi Leonard would go on a phenomenal run in the postseason the following year. Game-winning shots against the Sixers, coming back from 2-0 down against the Bucks, and then upending the, while injured, still reigning, defending, two-time NBA champion Golden State Warriors en route to being a Finals MVP. So DeRozan was part of all of the success building up to that moment, but leaves a year before they win a championship. Kind of, I don't, maybe you could put him on the same, I don't know if you want to call it wavelength or kind of storyline almost as Don Mattingly with the Yankees. Although Don Mattingly was forced to retire, not traded. He was forced to retire due to his back issues. And then as soon as he retires, the Yankees go on their great success. But DeRozan's having another all-star level year. He's fourth in the league in scoring. He's eighth in player efficiency rating. And the Bulls, even with all the COVID issues they had in December, all the injuries they dealt with recently to Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, Zach LaVine, are second place in the East behind the Miami Heat. And since January 15th, you could argue that DeMar DeRozan is either the first or second best player in the sport, as he's putting up 33 points a night and shooting at a 55% clip. The Bulls, they seemingly got the steal of free agency last year. And you think about it, it's interesting. The Los Angeles Lakers could have had this, but LeBron James chose to go with Russell Westbrook. And we've seen what a disaster that's been. Hell, last night I'm watching them get waxed by the New Orleans Pelicans, and they're turning over the ball left and right. I think they had 23 total turnovers in the game, 16 in the first half. LeBron contributed for 7 himself, and even though he had his 500th career game of 30-plus points, he's looking at times like exasperated, looking like, I don't know if you want to call it a defeated man, but looking around like, damn, what the hell did I put together here? And there's no doubt he played a huge hand in putting this all together, but I'm getting a little annoyed at the wishy-washiness here. The seemingly every couple of days changing of mindset when it comes to LeBron James. Because remember, during the All-Star break, all we heard about that entire weekend was how much he wanted to play with his son, LeBron James Jr., a.k.a. Bronny, eventually if and when he makes it to the league, saying that, my final year in this league will be teammates with Bronny. But then last week was spent in a spin cycle where he's got Rich Paul meeting with Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka early in the week, talking about the future with the Lakers, talking about the his commitment to winning here, commitment to this team. And then LeBron talking after their loss to the Clippers on Friday, saying, quote, "I see myself being with the purple and gold as long as I can play. But I also have a goal if that's possible. I don't know if it's possible, and if I can play with my son, I would love to do that. Is that something any man would want one day in life? That's the coolest thing that could happen, but that doesn't mean I don't want to be with this franchise." Well, in all likelihood, the Lakers are probably not going to be in position to draft your son when it comes time. And as we know, your contract runs out at the end of next year. And with Anthony Davis and his constant injury issues, and the fact that no one's going to be willing to take Russell Westbrook's contract off your hands, you're going to have that same tune, a year and a half from now when you reach free agency again. So I'm just, as much as I love and respect LeBron as a player, it feels like every couple of days he has to put out some kind of spin, some kind of different narrative on his playing career, rather than just letting his on-the-court actions do the talk for him. I mean, this is why you have pieces of garbage like Skip Bayless always coming out and criticizing him, for no reason whatsoever, or for reasons beyond the playing court. And for once, I think that criticism this week might be justified. Now, one guy who deserves a lot of criticism, and you question his real commitment to the game, is Zion Williamson. Because we are in what should be year 3 of Zion Williamson, and we barely see this guy. You realize that when he was drafted in 2019, the New Orleans Pelicans have played 205 games. And of those 205 games, he's only played in 85 of them. Since then, there was him tearing his meniscus in the preseason before his rookie year, delaying his debut for 3 months. Then the season got stopped because of the bubble, or because of the pandemic. They come back in the bubble. He didn't play there. Last year, he dealt with injury issues on and off. Didn't play back-to-back games, I think, until after the All-Star game last year. And then this year, before the season starts, it was announced he suffered a fractured foot and underwent surgery. And then there was a setback in mid-December, pushing his return date until around the All-Star break. And newsflash, the All-Star break has passed, and we still have not seen Zion Williamson. Add on to that not only did he not contact CJ McCollum after he was traded there from the Portland Trailblazers, which when you're I don't care how young you are, he's been marketed as the face of that franchise. Any good teammate, when you acquire a new player in a trade, whether it's a bit player or it's a guy in McCollum who's one of the top 50 players in this sport, it's common courtesy to call them or text them and welcome them to the team with open arms, try to build a relationship, but he hasn't done that. Hell, maybe I'm missing something. Has anyone even seen him at any Pelican games whatsoever? And they've been on national TV more than they should. I know they're trying to make a little run here, still catch up in the play-in tournament. They're currently, I believe, 12th in the West right now, and with the McCollum trade, hoping that sparks them and make a bit of a late season push here. But now you're seeing that he wasn't even included last week in an email that was sent out to season ticket holders promoting ticket sales for next year. And, that the Pelicans, they've been put in an awful spot here by a kid who, let's face it, has not earned the right to call his own shots yet in the sport. We've seen the talent of this guy. We saw it at Duke. We saw it for bits and pieces so far in his NBA career, but we haven't seen enough of it where you should be letting your franchise get run by a 21, soon to be 22-year-old kid who you really have to question his commitment to playing in this sport, because all of these injuries are based on one thing. This kid is out of shape. There is no way. It's one thing if you're playing in the NFL and you're built the size of him, 6'6", and reportedly listed at 284 pounds. I say reportedly, but he looks every bit of a biscuit short of 300 pounds. But in the NBA, where you're running up and down the court all game long, you're expected, when you're a starting player, to play anywhere from 30 to 36 minutes per game. And you're continuing to have injuries that are in the lower half of your body. It's definitely a sign that he's not keeping himself in the best of shape. And I don't know whether it's he has poor nutritionists or he's purposely doing this to try and force his way out of New Orleans, but his actions are clearly showing that he is not committed to the Pelicans long term. And that's brought up an interesting discussion around these parts in the last week to 10 days. Because let's go back 3 years. Yeah, and when you think about it, it seems like this was so long ago, with everything that has not just happened in the sports world, but in the world in general. Everything that we as a society have dealt with. 3 years ago at this time, the Knicks had just traded Kristaps Porzingis. And even though the Knicks were bad, there was a lot of Knicks fans that had their dreams set a mile high. They were saying to themselves, all right, we're going to win the draft lottery, get Zion, and then we're going to sign Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving or Kawhi Leonard, at least two of those three, in free agency, due to the fact that we have room for 2 max slots. We went against the grain, brought in a lot of non-traditional basketball executives, guys that were agents rather than basketball operations backgrounds, trying to change things up. And look what's happened since. Durant and Irving end up in Brooklyn. Kawhi spurns you and goes to the Clippers. And you guys end up with the number 3 overall pick in that draft, drafting RJ Barrett, who's turned out to be a pretty good player in his own right. Looks like a guy that could develop into eventually being an all-star. But before him were drafted Ja Morant, who is a human highlight reel and has the Grizzlies in a top position in the Western Conference, and Zion Williamson, who even for all the time he's missed, we all still agree is immensely talented. Well, if you're the Knicks and you're seeing this all go on, and you're seeing that clearly Zion Williamson's stock is at a low compared to what it was 3 years ago at this time, don't you got to make the call this coming off season and try to trade for this guy? And I'm not saying give up the farm and give up future first round draft picks and RJ Barrett along with either Obi Toppin or Emmanuel quickly to get him. But I'm saying, maybe one of those young players and your first round pick this year, as well as your first round pick in, let's say, 2024 or 2025 with heavy draft protection, saying, top 8 protection on it. And if they want it, throw in a second round draft pick somewhere along the line. So don't you got to make that call and say it, because clearly he doesn't want to be with the Pelicans, but you could take advantage of what's a bad situation for them right now, because they're trying to improve. They're trying to build something there, but they have a young, hopeful star that is a giant gray cloud that continues to loom over that franchise that they're seemingly getting nothing for. And maybe for once when it comes to the Knicks, maybe you can be on the right end of getting high value, be on the right end of pulling off a coup rather than getting taken advantage of. And it would be something that would set some excitement and a positive mindset for your fan base coming off of a year where you were the 4th seed last year, had an early exit in the postseason, and then this year continue to look like a walking train wreck as you sit here at 25-36 and 12th in the Eastern Conference, with Julius Randle continuing to look like trash and performances, great performances by RJ Barrett being wasted left and right. Maybe something to think about for the Knicks front office, and something for Knicks fans to once again pine and dream about heading into this offseason. All right, going to take another break here, come back on the other side and turn my attention to the NFL, where you have Aaron Rodgers, continuing to do questionable things, Tom Brady making a questionable decision, and a different kind of an NFL free agent carousel. Continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting founder Dick Robinson.
The media business has changed a lot since we opened our doors in 1964. Now media content is everywhere. On air, online, on the go. More than ever, companies are looking for people to help drive this new media.
At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, you'll get hands-on training on the latest software and equipment in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has placed thousands of grads in broadcast media careers.
It's all about versatility. You see, at a radio station, if you also know how to shoot, edit, and post videos, you become a pretty hot commodity. That's the training you get at Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with locations up and down the East Coast from Massachusetts to Miami. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Connecticut School of Broadcasting, the nation's oldest and largest group of broadcast media schools, redefining training in radio, TV, and new media. Get trained. Get connected. 1-800-TV-RADIO.
I talked about LeBron before, always seeming to want to change narratives about himself, always seeming to want to make himself the focus. But at least when it comes to him, he always seems committed on the court. I mean, he seems to have commitments going every which way, depending on what the day is, whether it's committing to wanting to play with his son one day or committing the next day to being a Laker for life, but at least he seems committed to something. Quite frankly, it's a lot more than we could say about Aaron Rodgers, who it feels like I've been through a spin cycle, rinse, dry, and repeat when it comes to this guy. Because go back very early in his career, I was one of the harshest Aaron Rodgers critics. And that was mostly because it felt like after about a year and a half, everyone was ready to induct him into the Hall of Fame. Then he won the Super Bowl, and I had to kind of shut my mouth for a little while, even though he was, ticking me off with how every time they'd win, it would be a lot of eyes, me, I did this kind of stuff. And then when they'd lose, it would be a lot of we's and us's and whatnot during the post-game press conferences. But then as time went on, I thought, he matured. I thought he grew up. And I've been very much on his side in the last year as he's went through this dispute with the Green Bay Packers at a time where he felt like he was being disrespected by that organization. And I felt like, when you're the face of a franchise, when you're the main reason that this team is relevant and would probably be picking in the top 10 of the draft every year if you didn't have him as your quarterback, maybe you should take some of his suggestions into consideration every once in a while. Well, this last, let's say 6 months, he has started to annoy the living hell out of me. I mean, at first it started off when he lied about the vaccination status, which I didn't care that he wasn't vaccinated. I cared that he lied to us and put people who thought he was vaccinated and in danger, and instead he was just trying to be cute with the way he worded things. Well, now, since the season ended, every time you turn around, or at least since the Packers season ended, every time you turn around, it seems like, every time there's a story about Tom Brady or a story about the Super Bowl, Aaron Rodgers has to make sure that his name is put out there. It's like, they're not talking about me today. I got to get a different story about me put out there. And the latest was late in the day last Monday when he posted a kind of cryptic Instagram post that he entitled #Monday Night Gratitude for some of the incredible special people in my life, with some pictures from the last beautiful year. In it, he would talk about his supposedly ex girlfriend, Chanel Woodley, if that's how it's pronounced, talking about how they met and how they started their life together. There's conflicting reports on whether they're still together. That's none of my business, and I'm in no place to judge that. Then he would talk about the quarterback room and the time he spent with quarterbacks coach Nathaniel Hackett, that he spent with Jordan Love and the other coaches and quarterbacks on staff, and how much fun that was each day. Would talk about some of his best friends on the team, such as Randall Cobb and David Bakhtiari, who he entitled the Friday Crew, and then addressed all of his teammates, past and current, before saying to everyone, spread love, gratitude, you beautiful people, and read a book once in a while you're at it. Love and peace. At first you're thinking, all right, it's either A, retirement speech, or B, things haven't gotten back to all kumbaya in Green Bay as reported, and he's writing his goodbye to the Green Bay Packers in preparations for a hopeful trade this coming offseason. Well, then, later in the week, he would do what has become his weekly pastime, and that's his hourly session on the Pat McAfee show, where you knew Pat was going to address this with him before they got into some of the BS that they talk about on a weekly basis and start breaking out the drinks as they usually do. And Rodgers would start off saying, quote, "There will be no decision on my future today. There's nothing cryptic about gratitude. I was just going through some old pictures from last year and felt an immense amount of gratitude for the life I have, the lessons that I've learned, and the growth that happened over the last year and the people who have been part of this journey." End quote. I mean, no cryptic about it. Nothing, just trying to spread gratitude. I mean, come on, Aaron. Listen, as I've said, I've been a big supporter of yours, but you can't bullshit a bullshitter. I could smell BS from a mile away, and that's utter garbage that you're telling us that you weren't trying to be cryptic about it. You were clearly trying to send some kind of message, whether it was, we haven't talked about you in a week to 10 days, so let's get Aaron Rodgers the lead focus once again, or you're trying to send a message to the Packers, or trying to prepare yourself for retirement if that's the route you're going to go this offseason, which I still don't believe that's going to happen. Just be honest with us. The BS and trying to be cute about things is what got you in trouble earlier this year. And I don't mean legally in trouble. I mean trouble as far as the court of public opinion, where everyone thought you were an a-hole for lying about your vaccination status. Just be real. People respect honesty more so than they do, cryptic natures of posts or trying to put out some kind of false narrative. And that's all until some kind of decision is made definitively one way or another, whether it's you announcing with the Packers some kind of new contract extension or a trade being announced to either the Broncos or the 49ers, or you retire this offseason, any announcements that you make, whether it's publicly speaking on the Pat McAfee show or announcing as social media posts, are going to be viewed as just that, cryptic and attention-seeking. Now, speaking of attention-seeking, I'm not sure whether he's going through some retirement crisis or whatnot, or he's just trying to match LeBron James. But Tom Brady is now going to produce and appear in a football-themed road trip-like movie that will be titled 80 for Brady. And on the surface, this sounds like a walking pile of crap and a disaster waiting to happen. When you look at it, the story, supposedly inspired by a real-life true story, is about four best friends who are New England Patriot fans that are going to be traveling to Super Bowl 51 from back in 2017 to see their quarterback hero, Tom Brady, and it details the chaos that ensues on this wild ride to the game, to the sport's biggest game. And the four women starring in this are actresses Lily Tomlin, Jane Fonda, Rita Moreno and Sally Field, who together have an average age of about 83. Tomlin's 82, Fonda's 84, Moreno's 90, and Field is 75, which, the fact that they're still getting roles and doing them well at those advanced ages, God bless them, and, can't blame them for wanting to continue on with their careers. But this story, it feels like this could be a bigger disaster, or as big a disaster as Kevin James's recent movie where he was playing Sean Payton. And Tom Brady, it feels like he is doing this because he has no idea what to do with his life, because the last 22 some odd years of it have been spent on the football field. It's like, Tom, end the nonsense. Just, tell us you were joking and come on back. You still want to play. You know that come June, you're going to be preparing your bags, whether it's going to be going to Bucs training camp, although, you just lost a member of your offensive line. Who knows if you're going to want to go back to there, or if you're going to be traded to the 49ers and play for your boyhood team, playing the position that your childhood idol, Joe Montana, was playing in trying to get that franchise back to Super Bowl glory. You want to come back. You know that in the back of your mind, you're planning a comeback. Why stage all these shenanigans and go through all of this just to prepare yourself for a comeback? Just end this retirement and come on back, because this movie sounds like it's going to be a disaster, and it's just going to be a slight tarnish on your legacy that so far has been completely spotless. Now, in past years, around this time, one of the biggest talking points in the NFL is about free agency. And I believe tomorrow is the drop dead date for teams to make decisions about their use of the franchise tag. And there'll be some interesting decisions that have to be made, led by whether the Green Bay Packers franchise tag Davante Adams. Well, never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd be sitting here talking about an NFL free agent carousel like this, and it not involving the players. Hell, not even involving front office executives. We're talking about the announcers, because, with Amazon coming into the mix, Amazon Prime coming into the mix next year, everybody is starting to line up as far as preparing how they're going to set up their broadcast booths, in particular their A teams for the prime spots. And the prime spots, of course, are the 25 time slots on both Fox and CBS, NBC Sunday Night Football, ESPN/ABC with Monday Night Football, and then that Amazon Prime is joining the party in getting the exclusive rights to Thursday Night Football, becoming the first streaming service to get one of these Prime sports packages. Well, the first domino dropped in that this past week, as it's been reported, nothing officially announced yet, although it sounds like it's all but a done deal, that Troy Aikman is leaving Fox after, I think, was there for over 15 years, leaving Fox to join ESPN to become their lead analyst on Monday Night Football for a whopping 5 years, $90 million, which you knew that if he was going to leave Fox, he was going to ask for Romo money, because he's been doing it a lot longer and for better than Romo has been doing it. Now, when I first heard this report, initially I was a little disappointed because I actually like the booth that they had together on ESPN as it's sat right now, with Steve Levy doing play-by-play, and then Brian Greasy and Louis Riddick as your analysts on the game. I thought it was a pretty good booth, and it seemed, that they were pretty popular compared to some of the recent booths that Monday Night Football had tried to squeeze together. They made it about the game, not about themselves. And listen, none of us, I think, have ever tuned in for an NFL game based on the announcers. We tune in based on the action on the field. But ESPN clearly wanted to get a big fish, feeling that, if we get Aikman in here, maybe we'll start to get more of the bigger games from Monday Night Football that we were starting to lose to NBC for Sunday Night Football. Because you face it, you look at it, the last several years, NBC has been getting the better package on Sunday nights compared to Monday Night Football on ESPN. And a lot of that is been based on NBC being, network television rather than, a cable package television channel. And the fact that NBC late in the season can flex into certain games. You can't flex games on Monday Night Football. You're kind of stuck with what you get. But, you get Aikman in the mix there. Maybe that leads you to getting bigger games for what is still considered a holy grail amongst players when it comes to the NFL schedule, because you're the only game going on in that day, in that time, and everyone turns all their attention and focus to Monday Night Football. And with Aikman coming, you would wonder what happens at Fox. Fox had been talking to Sean McVay, but he has let it be known that he's going to be sticking with the Rams and coaching. There's also Sean Payton sitting out there, who they've been talking to, kind of, I guess, in a battle with Amazon trying to get his services. On the surface, that would seem like a weird fit with Joe Buck, but now you're seeing the reports that ESPN wants to bring Joe Buck along with Troy to do Monday Night Football. And, if you're Joe Buck, you got to ask yourself something here, because he's making $11 million at Fox right now, doing the NFL on Sundays, calling the Baseball World Series, and calling certain games during the season. You got to imagine, if he goes to ESPN for Monday Night Football, while scheduling it would probably not conflict with the World Series, ESPN would probably not allow their lead guy to still work for another network. So if you're Buck, is the World Series still that important to you that you'd be willing to give it up to probably make $20 million a year doing Monday Night Football and then getting a lot of time off? Because, these guys, believe it or not, they like to work. They get a boatload of time off during the year, but you see some of these announcers where they're jumping around city to city during the baseball and football seasons, doing both sports at the same time, as well as basketball as well, and only taking a little bit of time off in the summer. I mean, look at Ian Eagle. At any given time, he could be doing one night a college game, the next night the Nets, and then the next afternoon he's doing Sunday football for CBS. And his name is going to be brought up a lot here because, if Buck leaves Fox and goes to ESPN, who becomes the lead guy at Fox? Do they just bump up the combination of Burkhart and Charles Davis, or since Iron Eagle is probably not going to get the number one spot at CBS anytime soon, does Fox come calling to him? Hey, I'm okay with that as long as it doesn't affect him calling any Nets games. We don't want to lose Ian doing the Yes broadcasts. But everyone is clearly trying to step up their games, step up their broadcasts with Amazon Prime joining the mix. I mean, Amazon Prime, you know, they've had their heart set the whole time on going and getting Al Michaels for play-by-play for Thursday Night Football. And as long as he doesn't go to ESPN and do Monday Night Football, it feels like at this point that in all likelihood, Al's going to be doing Thursday Night Football next season. The question's going to become, who's he going to be doing those games with? You know, at first you thought it could have been him and Troy Aikman, but now Troy is going to Monday nights. And he, as much as he wanted Troy, you know, now there's other options to discuss. You know, there's the Sean McVay was once thought as an option, but he's staying in football. Do they make a run at Sean Payton? Do they make a run at trying to take Drew Brees away from NBC? Because, you know, Drew's in the studio, but I'm sure he'd like to do some broadcasting of games, analyzing games, and is probably not going to get that opportunity as long as Chris Collinsworth is still there. There's also this that's been thrown in the mix that Peter King has brought up recently, that Amazon is now eyeing ESPN's Kirk Herbstreit, and it would be feasible because in Herbstreit's contract with ESPN, the deal was written to allow him to still do his College Game Day and college football playoff and prime time Saturday night games, while also doing work for calling NFL games for a different entity at the same time. So, is that something he's looking to do? Is that something he's going to be jumping to do? I mean, all of this sounds a bit confusing. All of this seems like it's just this mismatch and all being thrown around. But it's fascinating that we're sitting here on the final day of February and free agency and a carousel as far as NFL announcers is one of the biggest talking points, one of the biggest stories in all of professional sports. All right, going to take one last break here, come back on the other side, and close out this podcast for the week. Continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting founder Dick Robinson.
You know, the media business has changed a lot since we opened our doors in 1964. Now media content is everywhere. On air, online, on the go. More than ever, companies are looking for people to help drive this new media.
At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, you'll get hands-on training on the latest software and equipment in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has placed thousands of grads in broadcast media careers.
It's all about versatility. You see, at a radio station, if you also know how to shoot, edit, and post videos, you become a pretty hot commodity. That's the training you get at Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting with locations up and down the East Coast from Massachusetts to Miami. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Connecticut School of Broadcasting, the nation's oldest and largest group of broadcast media schools, redefining training in radio, TV, and new media. Get trained. Get connected. 1-800-TV-RADIO.
Not sure there were many people out there, especially in the sports world, that had a worse week than Phil Mickelson. And if you guys didn't see it, Phil Mickelson made some, on the surface, rather controversial comments over the last week, talking about this new Saudi Arabia-backed golf league. He told this in an interview with a journalist named, let me see real quick here, Alan Shipnuck, who's writing a book on Phil Mickelson. And he, in this interview, Phil Mickelson talked about why he and other top golfers that he's recruiting for this golf league are doing this, saying that it wasn't so much about success for that league as much as it was a chance to reshape the PGA Tour, feeling that the PGA Tour is been, quote, manipulative, strong, and using strong arm tactics, and that they're doing this to gain a leverage on Commissioner Jay Monahan, saying, quote, I'm not sure I even want it to succeed. I just want the idea of it allowing us to get things done with the tour. Saying, quote, knowing all of the things that has been done in Saudi Arabia, I consider this, because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to reshape how the PGA Tour operates. And since then, he's tried to backtrack on those comments because it's come from a lot of criticism publicly. It's come from criticism from some of his peers, including the likes of Rory McIlroy. It's led to other golfers saying that he's kind of out of his mind with this. And since then, Phil has been hit where it hurts the most, in the wallet, because he's lost out on sponsorship deals with Callaway Golf, with this accounting firm, KPMG, Amstel Light Beer. They've terminated their contracts with him, and his charity, which had been a supporter of the American Express PGA Tour event, will no longer be connected with that tournament, a tournament that he had been the host of since 2020. And I know he's come out and apologized. He's come out, tried to say that his comments were taken out of context. Well, Phil, what kind of context were you wanting us to take it as? And even if you were thinking that, why say it? Because A, you've long been viewed as one of the great guys of this sport, well, one of the most popular people in golf, and then you're going to come out with comments saying, yeah, I know that Saudi Arabia's done a lot of bad stuff, but I'm willing to essentially sell my soul on that just to change the way things are done in the PGA. Even if you're thinking that, don't say it, because you know that you're going to get destroyed to the nth degree. No, listen, I've always been all about expressing your opinion and expressing yourself, but there are certain things you can't say because they come off as disrespectful and offensive to others. And this is right along those lines. And the second those quotes came out of your mouth, you knew that you were done as far as your connection with all of these top, promotions or top sponsorship deals that you had. For the longest time, you were viewed as as great a golfer as you are, viewed as that lovable, feel-good story in the PGA, now, today, most people are looking at you as a pariah and something that they want nothing to do with. And, speaking of someone who's kind of running their mouth, in the brief baseball that I'll talk about today, because I'm kind of annoyed with that situation going on, Marcus Stroman, for the first time since he left the Mets, signed with the Cubs earlier this offseason, put out some curious tweets last week that first started with talking about him running into his now former teammate, possible former teammate, who knows, maybe he signs with the Cubs, Michael Conforto out in Arizona, and saying, quote, he automatically upgrades any team in all facets. He will rake all future and play great defense. Worth every penny, pay the man what he deserves. And then when some Met fans chimed in saying that they hope he comes back, Stroman would say, quote, I'm hoping he's well paid elsewhere. Very, very thankful to be out of there for several reasons. God always got me. Beyond excited to perform for an incredible fan base who appreciates their players at Cubs. And this comes just months after Marcus Stroman posted tweets of thanking the Mets organization, saying that he was thankful for his time there. But on Tuesday, then he writes that he's beyond thankful to have left the team. And when pressed by many people on Twitter to expand on those comments, saying the world isn't ready for those answers, to be honest. Quote, just look at who the Mets hired as their GM. That tells you enough. His lack of awareness for his previous position is being exposed to the public now. I'm beyond thankful to be gone from that organization. Of course, he's talking about Billy Epler, the now general manager of the Mets, who was the GM of the Angels during the time in which Tyler Skaggs passed away. And now we're seeing all of that play out. And at first you're thinking, wow, Marcus Stroman, why so bitter, man? Why you gotta be so angry? Why you gotta be so pissed off all the time? And now this is a guy that's always seemingly out there, always seemingly, kind of quirky, kind of weird with some of his some of the things that he speaks out on. But then on Wednesday, you could understand it, or what he's talking about. When he said, quote, endless death threats, being called the N-word often, hearing Black Lives Don't Matter, and playing for a front office that didn't care about any of that. I will speak on this topic on my time and on my podcast at some point. Still dealt on the mound through all of that. And he did. He was great with the Mets in his 2 years with the Mets, because remember, he opted out in the 2022 season, or the 2020 season, during the midst of the pandemic. But in 44 starts with the Mets, he had an ERA just over 3 at 3.21, a whip of 1.23. Not, Cy Young worthy stuff, but very respectable. The Mets just, it seemed like every time Marcus Stroman pitched, he was on the same problem that Jacob deGrom always had, and that's not getting a lot of run support. That's why he went, in those starts, he had a record of 14-15 with 15 no decisions. He pitched very well for them, but, this time I can understand Marcus being pissed off. This time I can understand him being annoyed, because no one wants to hear death threats. No one wants to hear that evil, disgusting, ugly, vile word thrown their way, or being told that because of the color of their skin, their life doesn't matter. and I don't want to paint all Met fans with that broad brush. And it probably wasn't just Met fans. It was probably some fans on the road that said it in either rare times that he got his ass kicked or times that he dominated their team and they were just, pissed off and they handled things the complete wrong way of doing things. But, these things, the way these athletes perform, it should never be taken personal. We should never be taking these personal shots. Yeah, you want to boo because someone performed badly. You want to get annoyed. Fine. But don't make it personal. Don't make death threats. Don't drop the N-bomb like that, because in the end of the day, he's just trying to do his job, make a living for his family. It just so happens he's able to do something that you and I can't do, don't have the physical talent to do so. He was graced by the hand of God to be good enough to be making money doing a sport that at the end of the day is his livelihood and shouldn't affect how we think or view him as a person. And he received some support from some ex-big leaguers, so both who happen to be black, and Preston Wilson and LaTroy Hawkins, both guys who were veterans and well-respected veterans during their playing career. And, I was thinking a lot about LaTroy Hawkins this past week because LaTroy was a Yankee for half a season in 2008. And he was not good with the Yankees. Had an ERA over 6, a high whip, was not a good reliever for us in what was otherwise a respectable big league career. And why it came to mind from 2008, because that year he chose to wear the number 21. And he did so because he wanted to honor Roberto Clemente, who was a hero in his family and a well-deserved hero. But Yankee fans at Yankee Stadium did not take too kindly to that and booed the living crap out of this guy every time he took the mound because he wore the number 21, a number that is sacred to this generation of Yankee fans because it was worn by the Warrior, Paul O'Neill. And many fans had, in their own minds, retired that number up until now, not wanting another player to wear it. Remember, when Roger Clemens got here, he was 21 all through his time with Boston and Toronto. Never tried to take that. Took 22. Didn't even try to take it when he came back in 2007. The Yankees, other than LaTroy, had never given out that number. Well, now justice is going to be served here because, it all depends on if we're going to have a season. But on Sunday, August 21st, Paul O'Neill's number 21 will be retired. And I know there's a lot of people, non-Yankee fans out there, that are saying, the Yankees are retiring another number. This will make it 23 players, 22 overall numbers to be retired. Or should I say 23 numbers and 24 players, because remember, 8 is retired twice for Yogi Berra and Bill Dickey. But Paul O'Neill is so well-deserved of this honor. He played over half of his career, 9 of his 17 big league seasons with the Yankees. And in that time, he played in north of 1,200 games, was always out there for 140 plus games, excluding that one year where there was the strike in 94. Had 185 or 185 home runs, 858 RBIs, scored 720 runs, and a slash line of 303, 377, and a slugging of 492 over that time. And his best year was probably the year of the greatest Yankee team in my lifetime and arguably the greatest team of all time, not just Yankees, but in all of baseball, when they won at the time, record-setting 114 regular season games, won the World Series, and he hit 24 home runs, 116 RBIs, and a slash line of 317, 372, and 510 in 152 games. And in the postseason, he was a clutch hitter. Wasn't as clutch as Jeter and Bernie, but still put up very productive numbers in the postseason. Now, I've always looked at it when it comes to that late 90s group. That happened because of three things. A, George getting suspended early in the 1990s because it allowed Gene Michael and Buck Showalter to redesign the organization in the direction that it needed to go in, rather than continuously signing high price, late in their career veterans to stupid contracts. Then it led to, what was number two on the things that, in my mind, leading to success. Bernie Williams getting called up in 1990 and him having success, because if he didn't have success, who knows what would have happened with the other young guys in Jeter, Posada, Pettit, Mariano, amongst others, when George got his suspension lifted. Who knows if they would have been given the same chance that Bernie Williams got if he didn't have success. That's why, I've always felt it was unfair he's not included in the core four thing, and it's not viewed as the high five, because if he didn't have success, they might have not been given their chance. And the third reason, the Paul O'Neill trade before the 1993 season. He was viewed as kind of just an average player with the Reds, and came here, was a four-time All-Star, was a leader in that locker room, learned how to hit left-handed hitting, and was a huge part of that team's success in winning what was 4 titles in 5 years, and probably should have been 5 titles in 6 years. And I mentioned the numbers he put up in 1998, he did that all while batting third in that lineup. This is a very well-deserved, justified, long overdue honor in most Yankee fans, including my mind. And I know there are numbers out there that you could probably argue whether they should be retired. I mean, Don Mattingly is the only player that has his number retired by this team that does not have a championship, but hey, it's Donnie Baseball. He was beloved and was a great player for a long time. And other than, I think, maybe Reggie, who did more with the A's than he did with the Yankees, I think you can find justification in almost every number that is retired. Now, that being said, after this is done, I don't know who's next. I've seen people talk about, the likes of either David Cohn or CC Sabathia, or, say Aaron Judge continues on the career pace he's been on. Will he someday get number 99 retired? Who knows? And I'm not going to focus on that for today. Today, it's a day to celebrate and bask and be happy that finally, at 21 years after his playing career is done, the Warrior Paul O'Neill is finally going to get his justification for his time with the Yankees and get his number retired. And that's something we should all rejoice. And that, my friends, was Keeping It Sports with M3 for Monday, February 28th, 2022. Everyone have a great night. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you guys again, same time next Monday. Until then, peace.
We have to go. Good night, everybody.
I have had enough of you.
Thank you for all the fun. Thank you. Hey, shut up, will you?
I don't want to see you, I don't want to hear you, I don't want to smell you. Now leave. I'll be back.